Hey guys, happy Monday. Thanks for stopping by for another episode. In today's video, we'll be covering latest updates with Opendoor Technologies, ticker Open. In fact, today we saw a lot of volatility to the downside. Most of you are wondering, is now a time to buy, sell, or hold? What is going on with the stock today? We'll cover the latest updates as well as me sharing my technical analysis price predictions for Opendoor, where we're headed this remaining week, as well as up through the rest of 2025 and onward. Now, if you're new to this channel, if you're part of the Open Door family, I would really appreciate you smashing the like, subscribing for more related content. Let's begin, guys. Let's take a look at this post. Founder with ADHD. This is the part where everyone flips on Eric for a few days. Open Army, we saw this with Carvana. Don't sweat it. Conviction plays. At the time of this post, Opendoor, it dropped where the price at that time was $8.39. In fact, in the after hours right now, we're seeing Opendoor hovering at around $7.50. Most of you are wondering what is going on. Is now a time for dollar cost averaging? We'll cover all of those updates. Bullish posts is Open Access Industries, one of the biggest investors in Opendoor with almost 42 million shares. They have recently sold half their position. They were the ones who drove the stock to almost 50 cents. I am under the assumption that the deal was Access Industries will exit their entire position when Rabois becomes chairman. Now becomes the chairman's task to make them regret their decision. It will be the story time in business schools if that happens. Big bets here, and also exciting. I have conviction in the chairman and the current executive team. What does this mean? I mean, we just seeing, this group entity selling their shares. When you think about it, being, in that cost average 50 cents, having the stock go up by 10x, especially when you're at that level, you're going to be taking profits. And I think that's what they did. They de-risked and they were able to make profits. Now, what does this mean for us investors, financial institutions? We know, big time whales are buying financial institutions like Goldman Sachs. They're looking at it through the lens of long-term investing. I think, with the company that sold it, they're trying to make, more money elsewhere. That's just how things go. I mean, Stevio, our Open Door Army general, he posted today's vibe reminds me of when Open tanked minus 30% or more after hours during the quarterly revenue call. The difference now, we got heavyweights like Canada Kaz as a CEO. We got angel investors returning like Rabois, Eric Wu, and Shrisha grinding to steer the ship in the right direction. So change in the leadership just happened not too long ago, and that's really going to spark interest. And in fact, it has. And ultimately, it's a matter of time as the company will continue to grow. Kaz posted today. Today, I told Opendoor team that we are going to be a default in-office company starting September 29. We'll have offices in Miami, where I will usually be, Seattle, and San Francisco. We will also have a Phoenix office for non-product roles and possibly Toronto in the future. What does this mean? He's changing the culture. He's expecting that those who are working for the company are there to make it happen, have collaboration, bring ideas, and drive this company towards becoming a multi-billion dollar company. Urban Stocks posts is open, nothing has changed. Ascending triangle, getting tighter, bullish. $8.60 support is strong. So what are we seeing? Yes, even though current price in the after hours, it'll be interesting to see how things go tomorrow. But I do think that we're going to see continuous buying of the dips, and we see this, consolidation in this pennant flag. And I do think that things are going to look bullish as we look at it from a zoomed out perspective. Brandon poses Open is a better dynamic company now than it has ever been at any point. Yes, the stock seems to be tanking, but if you liked Open at $10, you should now love it at $7. Canada Kaz Rabois are now in the driver's seat. They will add billions to the market cap. After reflecting on what I'm seeing tonight, the answer is clear. Do not sell this stock. Let's take a look at technical analysis. I want to give you my overall perspective. So, with what we saw, I mean, this stock, it was in like the 50 cents July timeframe. It popped up to $4. Then it, went back down to the support 191, started climbing back up August, retested, resistance 591, built a base at 433. Retested all-time high 734, then built a base at 570. It's just stair step climbing. And then what happened after that news announcement with Shopify CEO announcement? It went from 591 all the way to 1078 sub, $11. It broke through the golden ratio. It got close to that psychological barrier, fib level of 1 at 1086. There was resistance there. Then we just saw consolidation at around the 0.786 fib, where that became the support. And at one point last week, it shot up from $9 to 1068. We thought that the continuation will continue, but you notice there was resistance at that fib of 1. Then consolidation from last week, now opening up with this week, we saw a pullback. And now most of you are wondering what's going on and where will the bleed out stop? Are we seeing a falling knife right now? So, I expected that, open, because it's been just shooting up, it needs to take a retracement, and we're seeing it, retrace current price right now, like in the after hours, it's like at 750. So, it's hitting that golden ratio Fibonacci retracement level at 750. So we definitely need to see support here, which I do think we're going to have some support there. But definitely the bulls will need to hold at that level. And I think, with these prices getting at like, 750, 730, definitely great entry point. I mean, when you're looking at, holding on to Opendoor to have it appreciate to $82, buying, below double digits is definitely going to be the way to go. This is your opportunity, but I would remain patient. Just see where this is headed through the rest of the week. I'm definitely monitoring this as entry points, as I look through the rest of the week, because ultimately I do think that as we head into October, we're going to start climbing up to that, 15, to the upside, getting to that 1.618 fib level. And at that point we may very well blast off. We continue to see smart money buying in, and this is looking, just standard stair stepping. Things can't go in a linear fashion. Relative strength, just changes, because of the increase in the relative strength, it being overbought. Let's take a look at the daily candles. So, definitely, we're going to see some support at the, fib ratio at 0.618. I definitely do see resistance at that, fib 1 at 1086. But I definitely do think as we consolidate around this range, in the 750 range, we're going to start, climbing back up. So I wouldn't worry. It's just all stair step. We got whales buying, we got financial institutions buying. The use case is there. We got Kaz as a leader. Fundamentals are growing. Use case is compelling. And as a result, because we're seeing, a pullback, this is, a healthy consolidation to the upside. It's just going to be, consolidating before we start gapping up. So is now a time to buy, sell, or hold? Definitely, I'm going to be continuing to add as I see any potential dips, because I definitely do see that there's value in Opendoor Technologies. I own shares of Opendoor as well. And I believe that the overall use case, $82 to, triple digits. The next Palantir Carvana stock, we're going to see this headed to, like $200, $300.
Day 35 back here at Drake's. Had a big rainstorm this morning, but everything's looking good now. We got all the trucks are back. Everyone's getting ready. Drake's returning this week from Germany, from Europe. Big tour, big successful tour. Had some big news at EMJ. This used to be a open story, but on day 35, we got another name that we're talking about here, which I need to go over with Drake and with Future. The ticker is Better, BETR, Better Home. It's a new stock, which I just announced this morning, and had a big move. A lot of people talking about it, asking me about it. It got as high as something like $90 this morning after closing at $34 on Friday. 34.07 is where it closed Friday. I put out a tweet thread today talking about better, the way I talked about open on July 14th when it was 88 cents. Day one, when I showed up here at Drake's, open was $3.21. It's now, I don't know where it is right now, it's over $9. Better was 34 bucks on Friday. Got as high as 90 bucks today. Last time I looked, it was around 50 bucks. I think it could be a 350 bagger. And I gave my logic for that. It's basically the Shopify using AI of mortgages is what they have been doing the last 3 years. And I think it's God's plan and I think Drake should own both. I think a lot of other people should look at both too and do their own analysis and judge for themselves. I put out my thoughts. People can ignore it. My thoughts, they can disregard it. They can, hand wave it away. I mean, that's their right. This is Canada. This is America. Everybody can do what they want. I'm the Carvana guy who got in at 15 bucks. I got in open at 88 cents, and now I'm in better over the last few weeks at a much lower price than it is today. I haven't sold a share. I don't plan to sell a share. I think this could be a $12,000 stock in 2 years, 3 years. That's if everything goes right. That's if rates drop 200 bips. But the pathway is there. This is a totally different kind of company with no Wall Street coverage, just like Open, just like Carvana. So it's the kind of name that can 100 bag. And I think, that's why I like it. That's why I think Drake should like it. That's why I think Future, this business manager, should like it. And hopefully when Drake returns to Canada from Germany, I'm going to Germany for a couple of days at the end of this week. So we'll pass each other, but hopefully we can schedule a meeting when I'm back and they're back and talk more about this. Better and open. They can work together too, by the way.
So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed another episode where we covered latest updates with Opendoor, what my price prediction of Open is, as well as, just covering the overall day-to-day updates. If you enjoyed this content, I would really appreciate you hitting the like, subscribing for more related content. Thanks, guys.